Okay, let's dive right into this because this is absolutely wild. Imagine this scenario, right? You and your friends are just hanging out on a street corner, playing a casual game of Ludo for, I don't know, a few rupees. Suddenly, the police show up and bam, you're arrested for illegal gambling. But at that exact same moment, millions of people across the country are legally betting thousands of rupees on their phones, literally cheered on by their absolute favorite celebrities. It's crazy. Welcome to our explainer on the Indian betting loophole. Today we're going to untangle this fascinating and honestly kind of frustrating reality of what's legal, what's illegal, and most importantly, who is really making all the money.
So, here's our roadmap for today. We're going to look at 1. The Indian betting paradox. 2. The whole game of skill versus chance debate. 3. We'll follow the fantasy money. 4. Look at the actual math of losing. And 5. Touch on addiction and illegal scams.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the Indian betting paradox.
To really understand this paradox, let's look at a real-world example. In Ahmedabad, a guy was literally arrested at a bus stand just because he was playing Ludo with 8,000 rupees. The police treated it as a straight-up public gambling offense. But turn on your TV right now. You'll see national heroes, absolute superstars, urging millions of people to deposit their hard-earned money into fantasy sports apps. And those users, they're treated like VIPs. So, you gotta ask yourself, why does playing a classic board game get you thrown in the back of a police van, while betting on a digital cricket match makes you a celebrated, highly valued customer?
Which brings us to Section 2, game of skill versus game of chance.
Now, what's really interesting about this is that it all goes back to the British era. The 1867 Public Gambling Act outright banned gambling houses, but it left a massive, glaring gray area. It stated that games of skill were totally exempt. The catch? They never actually defined what skill meant. So, fast forward a bit, and the Supreme Court finally had to step in and clear things up. They basically ruled that if the dominant factor in winning comes down to mental or physical ability, strategy, and practice, even if there's a little bit of luck sprinkled in, it's officially a game of skill, and therefore 100% legal. But if randomness and luck are the dominant factors, and the player doesn't really have any real control, well, then it's a game of chance, and that is illegal gambling.
Let's actually see how this whole thing built up over the decades. Because the law was so incredibly vague, legality had to be decided case by case, one at a time. In 1968, the courts legalized rummy. Why? Because remembering cards requires skill. Then in 1996, they legalized betting on horse racing, making the argument that studying the horses, analyzing the track, and knowing the jockeys takes skill. And then we hit the real watershed moment in 2017. A man named Varun Gumber lost 50,000 rupees on a fantasy cricket app. He turned around and sued, calling the whole thing gambling. But the court actually ruled against him. They stated that drafting a fantasy team means you have to study player stats and pitch conditions, making it, you guessed it, a game of skill. And just like that, the fantasy app industry got the massive legal green light it was waiting for.
Moving on to Section 3, follow the fantasy money.
All right, let's break down the math here, because it's super revealing. Imagine a 500 rupee prize pool, pooled together from 5 people paying 100 rupees each. Before anyone even plays a single game, the government swoops in and takes a massive 28% goods and services tax, or GST. Boom, 140 rupees gone. Then the fantasy app takes its cut, let's call it 20%, which is another 72 rupees off the table. Eventually a winner is declared, but wait, hold on. There's a 30% tax deducted at source, or TDS, on those winnings. That eats up another 86.4 rupees. So out of that original 500 rupee pool, the actual winner walks away with a net profit of just about 101 rupees. To put that in perspective, the platform and the government are taking the absolute lion's share, and they are taking exactly zero risk.
Now, if you zoom out for a second, the macroeconomic scale of this is absolutely staggering. Back in 2022, fantasy gaming revenue in India was around 6,800 crore rupees, but by 2027, it's projected to explode to over 25,240 crore rupees. I mean, we're talking about massive foreign direct investments pouring in from places like the US and the UK. With this sheer volume of money flowing to the platforms, to cricket governing bodies like the BCCI for sponsorships, and straight to the government in taxes, the entire ecosystem is highly incentivized to keep these games running exactly as they are.
But, there is some massive pushback happening. Take a look at this powerful observation from the Madras High Court. The justices explicitly called out the fact that these apps are succeeding in taking the public's money, specifically because revered cricket legends, we're talking folks like Sourav Ganguly and Virat Kohli, are out there promoting them. For the average fan, these players are treated practically like gods, right? So when a legendary captain tells you on a TV commercial to use your brain and play, fans just blindly trust them. They're completely unaware that they are participating in a system heavily stacked against them.
So the crucial point is, well, that brings us to section 4, the math of losing.
0.00667%. Let that sink in for a second. That tiny microscopic decimal is your mathematical probability of actually winning a mega event on these apps. It is a completely shocking number, and honestly, it completely shatters the whole illusion of easy money. I mean, to put that into perspective, you literally have a better chance of becoming the prime minister of a small country than you do of becoming a millionaire on a fantasy sports app. It's wild.
So why exactly are the odds so impossible? Let's look at the sheer combinations involved here. First, you have to pick 11 players out of the 22 on the field. That alone gives you over 75,000 basic combinations. But wait, it gets harder. You also have to pick a captain and a vice-captain to act as score multipliers. That adds 110 more combinations for every single team structure. If you multiply those together, there are over 7.5 crore. That's 75 million possible team outcomes for just one single match. Even if you somehow gathered millions of friends together to create completely different teams, you mathematically still cannot guarantee a win. It's a complete combinatorial explosion.
Which naturally leads us to a pretty glaring logical contradiction. If this whole thing is purely a game of cricket skill, deep strategy, and intense pitch analysis, why aren't retired legends like Kapil Dev or Sunil Gavaskar just sweeping the jackpot every single week? I mean, they obviously have infinitely more cricket knowledge than you or I do. Yet, the people who actually win are almost always random folks who might not even follow the sport all that closely. The harsh reality is, yeah, you might use some basic skill to pick good players, but the sheer, unpredictable randomness of a live sports match means luck is ultimately the final deciding factor. Let's move to our final section, Section 5, Addiction and Illegal Scams. We need to talk about the fact that this isn't just about bad habits anymore. We are talking about officially recognized clinical disorders. Both the World Health Organization and the American Psychiatric Association now classify online gaming and gambling addiction in the exact same category as severe substance abuse. It's that serious. Brain scans actually show that chronic engagement with these kinds of apps physically weakens the part of your brain that's responsible for impulse control. These platforms are literally designed to trigger massive adrenaline rushes, slowly but surely altering your brain chemistry until you are entirely hooked.
And the human cost of all this is absolutely devastating. Because the entry barrier is kept so incredibly low, sometimes just 10 or 20 rupees, it easily traps people. To give you a sense of the scale, in the state of Tamil Nadu alone, 40 people lost their lives due to extreme financial distress caused by these apps. And that was over a period of just 3 years. We are seeing reports of minors secretly using their parents' Aadhaar ID cards to gamble. We're even seeing highly trained, highly disciplined Indian army personnel losing lakhs of rupees to this addiction. The tiny, low cost of entry totally disguises the massive, life-ruining long-term financial drain.
And of course, where there's a legal gray area, the black market is going to thrive. Enter the Mahadev app syndicate. This was essentially unregulated, illegal gambling masking itself as a legitimate fantasy sports platform. The crazy part? It was started by two guys who literally ran a juice shop and a tire shop in Balai. They moved over to Dubai, partnered up with international contacts, and set up this massive, sprawling franchise model across India. At its peak, this single illegal app was reportedly raking in an estimated 200 crore rupees every single day, just completely exploiting the public's newfound comfort with online betting. The massive scale of the Mahadev app eventually led to sweeping raids by the Enforcement Directorate, and it triggered some major political fallout. The ED brought forward allegations that hundreds of crores in kickbacks were paid, even alleging involvement by the then Chief Minister of Chhattisgarh, Bhupesh Baghel. Now, for his part, the Chief Minister strongly denied all of these allegations, completely dismissing them as politically motivated, and pointed out that he had actually been actively trying to ban the app. But honestly, regardless of the politics, and we're not taking sides here, it just shows how deeply illegal gambling networks have penetrated the system, using the skill game loophole as their ultimate cover.
So after everything we've looked at today, we really have to ask ourselves a tough question. Looking at the mathematical impossibilities, the devastating levels of addiction, and the absolute mountain of tax revenues being collected, is this really a game of skill? Or is it simply a highly profitable, perfectly crafted legal illusion that's just being maintained because everyone at the very top is getting rich off it? Well, we hope this explainer has given you the facts to decide that for yourself. Thank you so much for joining me today, and as always, stay curious.